Hello, dear. It's a beautiful day, and thank you most sincerely for joining us on Political Affairs. This is where we discuss issues that have been on the front burner of national interest. And today, we're going to be looking at the place of social intervention scheme. Of course, humanitarian crises became occasioned for the establishment of certain ministries that brings about that social intervention scheme. When I return from this short time out, I'm going to introduce to you my guest who will further the conversation on how important Nigerians need the social intervention scheme. We'll take a short break back in a moment. Join us again. You're welcome back. But if you just joined us, you're watching Political Affairs. And I've been joined today by a young man, Anas Bala, who of course is an activist. And he joins me now to talk some more on the willpower that the government has to alleviate the sufferings either occasioned by humanitarian crisis or by the fuel subsidy removal. Anas, it's a pleasure to have you join me on Political Affairs
Thank
today.
you, Mr. Chris. And this is the first time I'm joining you on this
Sure.
platform.
Indeed. Now, we know that there are humanitarian crises, and sometimes it is either occasioned by natural disaster or sometimes occasioned by policies of the government. Now, we have seen that a fuel subsidy removal in this administration, by this administration, has attracted a lot of issues that Nigerians are being faced with. But what difference, or how important, first of all, and significant do you think that a social intervention scheme like that of Empower should be very pivotal in handling these challenges Nigerians are faced with?
Well, let me first of all say, just like you've recognized that there are human challenges. Partly some are due to human made,
Absolutely.
as a result of actions or policies we impact upon, and some are natural. And that qualifies me to say that the government of Nigeria introducing a specific ministry to look into that is in the right place.
That's the Ministry of
Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation.
Okay.
And what I am even more fascinated about this is I'm not flabbergasted, by the change of the cognomen of that ministry.
Yeah.
Before this administration, it was a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs
And Disaster Management. Yeah.
Yes, when the administration of Bola Tinubu came in, they have to now look at the cognomen and restructure it so that it can go, with the present challenges that the ministry is being established.
But some will say just nomenclature.
No, a lot of things have been attached to that.
Okay.
Because sometimes, policy directions and how we look at it, everything is about policy.
Absolutely.
And a name you attach to a specific policy will matters a lot. So changing the name to now be, a Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, to me, I think is a good one.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not flabbergasted, especially when the minister has to come on board, shortly after her inauguration. She moved straightly to the ministry. That's Beta Edu.
That's right.
Dr. Beta moved straight into the ministry to have a conversation with the staffs of the ministry, where she made it publicly clear there that she will overhaul a lot of programs and policies in the ministry so they can go in line with the expectations of Nigeria. One, about efficacy, and then the impact of that particular program or policy. Secondly is that a whole idea needs to be recalibrated so that at least it will meet up to the expectation of government itself. And that is why we have the recent temporary suspension of the Empower. And a lot of people throw in a lot of interpretations and concern about that, which I think if they could recall what I said in her own statement when she moved down to the ministry after being inauguration by the president, she said it. She said that, look, we will overhaul Empower entirely. And then the statements she gave out after the temporary suspensions were statements that they are enough to give you reasons or to exhaust your own thought about that look, a lot of things need to be put on hold and checks need to be made before we can
so if the honorable minister can say that of course she wants to overhaul the ministry completely. Doesn't that also speak to the fact that, the ministry during the previous administration may not have performed optimally in terms of meeting, the aspirations and yearning of Nigerians as at that particular time?
Well, I think I will alluded that to as a failure by the previous administration. But then again, I and you knew that in life, even when you're developing a widget like this, let's assume a technological, handset where we do communication, we always have a new model which are coming up. That's an additional features to that.
Yeah.
So what I think the ministry is doing with the president currently now is to look at, the intention of that ministry and then to make an assessment. How much have we been able to achieve in the last 8 years under this ministry? And then how do we now go? Because the past, the present, and the future will give you at least a better understanding of how you do things now. So I think what the administration is looking at is that, look, we understand that this ministry is important and it has at least made some, remarkable achievement. But then again, we need to consolidate, and then we need to see how we can, move from the next step where we are to another step. So it's all about, making the ministry performed again better than it was. Yes, of course, I would say that a significant achievement have been made under the previous administration in the humanitarian ministry. But then again, they need to make, another form of structure, another of thinking has to go into that so that at least it can perform better than it was.
Well, if the Honorable Minister has decided to overhaul the ministry, which is commendable, because most of the time the questions Nigerians ask is, if you're looking at what is the database, that could qualify the person's eligibility to be aided by these ministries, either in terms of provision of food or without basic amenities. And that indeed has always been a problem, getting this correct data for, to qualify the poorest of the poor and giving that level of eligibility. How is she about to go with these very...
Well, I think you've answered the question yourself. In one of our determinations, she said that, look, we need to update the social register, book that we have, which covers the social safety net program. So what she looked at is that, look, datas are not something that is always constant. Datas are fluctuating. You might have 100 people today, and before you know tomorrow, a lot of things may change, either death or some people might even be by way of natural, God-given, endowment, moves out from that social safety net, from the poverty below line to another level.
Financial breakthrough.
Exactly. So, these people are no longer going to be captured on that social safety net again. So people may lose their life in the course of this, so they might not be, in the social safety net again. So what she looked at is that, look, we need to update the social safety net register, and then we need to go down again and look at who are the exactly people that what category have been, what yardstick have we used, in capturing data, and what is, because everything in life is like things can change anytime.
Absolutely.
A lot of things will come and things will change. So she need to look into the books and see who are these beneficiaries, and then how do we update this data. And I think I've saw, Beta Edu as the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs traveling to about more than 6 states. I think the last one is in Zamfara. She met with the governors, talked to them, and I even saw her in Borno also to update that social register book, so that we will have those that were expected to benefit are the ones going to be on the
you talked about her travels to the various states. Of course, I saw one of the footage where she visited a riverine community in Lagos State, and it was pitiable actually with what she saw. Now, what does that mean to her and to the ministry, having a first-hand information of how things are and how these people who are below the ladder have been battled with the devastation of lack and poverty?
And let me even take you to that, because that has also created another impression in me again. What I see that Beta doing is that she's more, fascinated about this data you talked about. Because the last time we were having about 12 million people, that's 12 million households under the social safety net. And that is an improvement of about 3 million additional, 3 million people additional to that households. Because we have now moved from 12 million to 15 million households. And then by mathematical analysis she made is that the 12 million households going to cover about 60 million people, in Nigeria, who are below the poverty line, who have now sink, under the deep cave of the poverty line, and then when now begins to put our hands and pull them off, so we can move. So I think she's more interested about this, and I've seen an expansion from her, and even the logic they've made in getting these numbers, because they said, they cannot pick equal household across the country. There are states which are more poorer than others, so there's a lot of thinking that's going into some states have been 9 people per household.
Yeah.
Other states have been 5 people per household. So a lot of things is going, and I think I'm even more surprised that Beta has to do all these things, because I don't see her before this administration having the technical knowledge to run the Ministry of Affairs for humanitarian affairs. I knew her as an expert or technocrat in medical fields and all that.
Yeah.
But when she gets into the office, I begin to see that she's bringing out more thinking that it creates another imagination in me that look as if she's just good in everywhere.
But you cannot completely discard, the place of a medical doctor from humanitarian issues. Of course, it deal with humans. All right, now having done that and having gone through the nooks and crannies of those who are living below the poverty line and trying to reorganize the safety net, because you said it is not stagnant. It changes, it fluctuates. The numbers of those within the poverty lane, but it is being said, do not give me fish, teach me how to catch fish. Monetary stipends monthly, we've seen that happen year in year out, but it has never removed the person from poverty and within that poverty net. But what if a creation of an enabling environment, particularly within the ages of 18 and 30, that category of persons may not really want to be given stipends on a monthly or daily basis, but of course creating an enabling environment for them to venture into an entrepreneurial skills development, so that they can rely on it at the end of the day.
Well, I think that has also answered another question. When Beta has to meet with the ministry, with the staff of our ministry, she talked about this. She said, look, it's going to be this time around, it's not going to be as business as usual. We don't just dish out monies to people anyhow and without thinking of the value. And what she does was, she said, we will be engaging with those in the private sector, and then we will be engaging with experts from different fields, so that at least they will give you more skills. They will usher more skills to this youth before you get the fund, so that at the end of the day, if money is being given to you, after you've gotten the skills, you'll be able to use it for a long-term benefit. And one of our programs that even captured my mind on that is the JEEP program. The JEEP program. There's a program being run by the ministry as JEEP, and then again there's a program being run by the ministry as conditional cash transfer scheme.
That's right.
Which she says that if hopefully the president assented to that, they'll flag the commencement of that on the 17th of this month. She talked about this. She said, look, we need to give them a requisite skills. The conditional cash transfer program that she talked about, she said, look, there's going to be a 3-month intensive and vigorous skills acquisition program for these people.
But it is one thing to train a person in its a particular skill, and it's another thing to give a grant to that person.
Yes, exactly. I think there's a package arranged for that. Apart from the stipend that they're going to be getting at the end of the month, there's also a package arranged for that. Where tools will be given to them. I've seen the ministry doing that even in the last administration of President Muhammadu Buhari.
All right, we're going to take a breather, but please, I'd like you to ponder on this. We'll look at how the collaboration between the ministry and state government, because you cannot completely achieve that without the input coming from state government. So we'll still look at that and find out how the policy will fashion the decision making of even governors in line with what the Ministry of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation is doing.
Exactly.
You're watching Political Affairs on Karma. We'll take a short break now. Be back in a moment. Join us again. You're welcome back. But if you just tune in, you're watching Political Affairs. And of course, I have been in conversation with Anas Bala, I beg your pardon. He's been a young man who is pursuing the cause of alleviating humanitarian challenges occasioned by either natural disaster or as a result of the current removal of the fuel subsidy by this administration. All right, Anas, before the break, I said you will ponder on the collaboration between the humanitarian ministry under the leadership of Dr. Beta Edu. What is the collaboration? How would the collaboration be like with the state government?
Well, the first thing is that we've seen her traveling to different states, to engage with the governors and other officials of the ministry in those states. And what she did is that, look, the entire job of updating the social, register book, social safety net, list is done under the collaboration of state governors. She met with the governors and give them the requirements because they have the people. These people are the citizens of the governors. So the governors knows people who should be benefit more than that. So there's a collaboration, a clear synergy between the ministry of Dr. Beta Edu and the state governors, where she engage them in bringing up an updated list of the social safety net list. And then again, Beta Edu has also been intervening in terms of bringing what we call just a little palliative to alleviate the sufferings of people, understanding that people need it at this time around. Just like you said, there's a withdrawal of subsidy and things are becoming more hard. And almost all the programs the ministry is running, even before the coming of Beta Edu, it has always been under the collaboration between the state governors and the ministry. I remember when Sadiya Farouk was the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, a lot of our programs were done at the state. And then they don't do it just like that. In fact, the last office we have of the ministry was in the government house here in Adamawa State. I don't know if that still exists for now, but I know that under Sadiya Farouk, the office was in the government house, so that the governors will also know what is going on. And then there will be clear synergy and understanding between the federal government and the state government.
But give us a little bit of clarity and distinction here. I know that President Bola Tinubu has his own policy in terms of, alleviating a challenge occasioned by the fuel subsidy removal. But there should be a distinction between his decision whereby the provision of palliative, for these very temporal challenges that Nigerians are faced with, vis-a-vis what the humanitarian ministry is doing. There is a distinction.
Exactly.
Talk to us. What are the lines of it? Because I know BETU, Ministry of Humanitarian Poverty Alleviation, under the leadership of Dr. Beta Edu, may not purchase buses, CNG buses, for the common man.
Exactly.
But of course, she can do so much so that the common man will feel the impact. What's the distinction between what the president's policy are in terms of, and what...
well, I think all of us are watching at, how we can, lift Nigeria from where we are to the next stage of our progression in terms of economic development. I've even seen the Ministry of Women Affairs, the Minister Barrister Uju Kennedy, talking about meeting with people, trying to provide them palliatives, and then again also, building their skills towards what we are doing, especially our mothers, who are in the villages, who are good in farming and then in rearing animals and all that. So the whole of the ministers are moving toward one direction. The direction is that, look, life is no longer easy for people because of the policies we have decided to take, and we think is good for us. So what they think they will do is that all ministries will work towards, in as much as you go after your own mandate in the ministry, but then again, you must not forget that you also have something to do.
There is a centralized focus for every ministry.
Exactly, to do so that you can cause some succor to the people. But then again, like we said, the president has the plenipotentiary power to decide over everything. The president decided that, look, okay, since we have decided to take away the subsidy, then we'll provide people with transportation, we'll look at how we can provide, palliatives for our civil servants and all that. And Beta also will not relent, because clearly she has a mandate of lifting people from where they are, especially below the poverty line, to another level. So again, now there's another burden added to her, exactly, because before now, the number of people who are poor, probably you may guess, might not be as much as we have now because of the removal of fuel subsidy. A lot of people who are able to struggle and survive the way they wanted, or averagely the way they feel they want, can no longer do that because life is no longer living. So Beta has a lot to do, and that is why I think the president himself is pressing more on the office of Beta. I remember we have one of our own daughter here, Honorable Telu James, who is now the new CEO of National Social Investment Program Agency. That's the NCIPA. And then I don't know if it is true, but I've seen on social media that the office has been moved now to the presidency. But before, the office was under the humanitarian ministry. So all of these things are attempts by the government and then there's a synergy among all the ministers and the president themselves to look, people are going down, and it is undesirable to us. All of us as ministers, in as much as we have our mandate, whether you're a minister of finance and all that, make sure that when we are doing budgeting, when we are doing, the technical work, we have a straight or a cycle of agenda, like you said, that will touch the lives of the people to begin to provide palliative. So the president is doing his own, and Beta also has our own responsibility. But I think the president, to me, I'll plead with the president to improve or to add more funding to Beta, because Beta will be having a serious problem at hand in the administration.
Now, talk to me. You say, of course, there are some components, that make up the essence of these humanitarian ministry, which, of course, the main focus is to alleviate poverty. Like you said, the ministry also have, what is known as JIP, and then a conditional cash transfer. All right, talk to us what JIP is all about.
Well, JIP is just like people call it. Let's just say it's a grant. Where people have been trained on several skills, and then how the data are being captured. It's also a thing between the federal government and the state government. They updated the list, and then they will look into it and design a specific program. And don't forget, again, the ministry is looking at programs that added value to the economy. It's not just all kind of programs we begin to do. Or maybe we want to train people on vulcanizing, or what do you call haircutting, or all that. I think we've moved beyond that. We're looking at service additional value programs, which people can be self-reliant through upon without having to go back from where they are. And then for the there's a conditional cash transfer scheme under the JIP. I'll tell you that there's another intervention that the minister is making. That's under the JIP, where they go into the farm. That's, you also know this as money. What do you call it? Trader money. Yes, where
during the previous administration.
What the ministry is doing now is that they will pick up one market per senatorial district. Let's use our own state as a case study. At the Adamawa State, we have 3 senatorial zones. That is southern, central, and the northern. So in each of these senatorial zones, the minister decided to pick one market. So in that market, they will go in and capture data, where they will give traders in that market capitalization, and that capitalization is refundable, because the moment you're able to fulfill the requirement of refunding the capital, then you are able to at least access another one to the next level. Let's assume if you're able to be given 50,000 for instance at the start, if the period of repayment you're able to fulfill that without any default, then the next level you'll be able to access 100,000. Yes, so this is how it works. That's what we call the cash, the trader money, and the
conditional cash transfer.
Conditional cash transfer.
It's not refundable.
It's not refundable. That's just a statement where we are being given after you must acquire some certain skills. And I think after then again, it is not about the stipend you even got. Certain dispositional tools that you're going to be using for other things, or for that training that you have acquired, will also be considered in that.
All right, we're running out of time completely, but of course, before we drop the anchor, I'd like you also to look at the support base, because I know the reason why there is the vexation in the air, and as regard to the poor performance of the ministry under the previous administration, even though you attest to the fact that the ministry under Sajjad Farouk did well, but Nigerians also have asked questions, and Nigeria have been displeased with the way and manner of which the ministry was run as at that time. What is the convincing factor and a step that this administration will take in order to activate that affinity, that trust that the general public will have?
Exactly. Let me first of all say that I'll thank the president for appointing Beta in that ministry. That's number one, because I also have this over my head. It chunked me somewhere around the region of my throat that the ministry needed somebody who is ready to do the job, and I've seen that the enthusiasm in Beta. And then again, I'm also not happy with a lot of findings in the ministry recently. Beta has talked that a consulting firm, which their contract have expired for almost a year, they were still being given money to pay the Empower beneficiaries in particular, which they haven't paid for all this while.
But you think that trust factor now is activated? Nigerians can trust
exactly, because if Beta is able to expose all this under the same APC administration where she came up, and then if Beta have the courage to speak to people about these things on public, like we see in televisions, then that tells you that, look, she's going to do a lot, and then the hope will be rekindled in that ministry.
So there is the willpower.
There's the willpower.
All right, Anas Bala, is I want to thank you once again for
Thank you,
finding
Mr.
time to
Chris.
come on the show. It's been
Thank
very
you. It's my pleasure.
expository talking with you. And I hope I will still have more of your consent and presence to talk more as
Exactly.
regard to this ministry.
Exactly. I'm always available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, viewers, that's our show for today. Join us again, same time, same station, as come with a fresh edition of the program Political Affairs. Until then, stay safe. My name is Chris Jacobs.